How did the sheepherder's cabin get barnacles all over it?
Oh, indeed, yeah. And well, the next item we have here is a piece of the petrified material that you say has a sea anemone.
Yes.
And by the way, it's beautifully clear here. A sea anemone grows in salt water.
Yes, and seashells are all in the same one. We actually came back with many, many pieces that the scientists all agree it's saltwater sea anemones, saltwater seashells, and saltwater remains.
Now, you may hear claims that somebody's found Noah's Ark. It came through the news. All those photographs of a wooden cabin being swept out that somebody said was up on top of Mount Ararat, a hoax.
Yes.
On the other hand, to find the petrified remains of a wooden ship at 13,000 feet, how did it get up there? And here's an interesting thing. Between the timbers of this ship, you found a material which looked like sand at first. Tell us about that.
Yes, actually where the seams of the boards came together, you could see sand in all the seams. And on the pictures of our DVD, you'll look at it. If you brush away the sand, it's all pitch. Just like a asphalt road. If you look at it, it has a tire on the road with they put seals in summertime. That's exactly what it looked like. And so is obviously remains of a ship. But one thing we should talk just a little bit about is that fraud. Because some people probably heard the story, didn't hear what happened.
All right.
Because the world believes that Mount Ararat is in Turkey and the Noah's Ark. A group of 5 Kurdish men found a very old building by the Black Sea, took pictures inside that building, and then raised the money that this building was on Mount Ararat and sold it to some a group of explorers, Chinese explorers, for an enormous sum of money, carried the boards, trucked the boards up the mountain, carried them and put them, assembled them in a cave and took pictures of it. Well, part of the funny thing is the first picture you look at that they took of it before they took it apart had cobwebs over it. You know, at 13,000 feet, there's no cobwebs. This should have been the first climb. But
yes.
I think probably the best story on that, if you Google Dr. Randall Price, he has a pretty interesting story. He was one of the investors, and he gave $100,000 towards the expedition before he found out that it was fake. And he gives the evidence on the fact that it was fake and it was all proven wrong, and was very embarrassed by it. But the important thing is he gives a very interesting explanation on what they thought they had found turned out not to be true.
A counterfeit ark. And by the way, as Arch pointed out earlier, it caused a stir worldwide. People may claim to be atheists, they may claim to be agnostics, but you show them a little bit of proof and their ears pop up. They're ready. Now, this brings us to something. This is the pièce de résistance here. We need to talk about this for quite a while. This is a petrified something, and it has wood grain in one side. And the wood grains, by the way, you'll be able to see those on a DVD that we're going to make available, so you can actually kind of experience the trek that Arch made up that mountain on your own and in your own time. This piece appears to be a curved piece of petrified wood. And when you brought this back, you said that's what you thought it was.
Actually, this piece, we almost didn't carry off the mountain because everything we took off, we had to smuggle through customs to get back, and all the pieces were this size. We had this one big piece, but I just couldn't keep putting it down. You know, we brought about 30 pieces off the mountain, decided we were going to bring half of them back, so I ended up taking this piece. It looks like a chunk of wood. In fact, on the DVD, when you watch it, you'll see about a 30-inch round log, and then it zooms in because we had to take pictures of everything it took, and this is where it came from.
It has a slight curve on it, meaning that it came from a very large round log.
Probably one of the lower beams of it.
Except it didn't come from a log. Tell us what it really is.
Well, we sent it, this was on the second batch that we sent in because we thought it wasn't that important.
In other words, you decided the only way to find out what this thing is send it to a lab.
Yes, actually 5 labs.
5 labs?
Yes. And it was interesting because on the first lab, when we sent it to them, we had the scientists all on the phone from all 5 labs with all of our 14 climbers on telling us what they had. And while they were on one hand making fun of us because we thought we had Noah's Ark, on the other hand they were saying, this stuff is really interesting. We'd like to look more, and they charged us a lot of money for the first time they saw it. They said, if you have any more pieces, we won't charge you. We just want to look at them.
Wow.
And that's when we sent in this piece. And here's the interesting thing. You can see they cut off one corner of it. Out of this, they took it apart, particle by particle. They found this is petrified animal waste from the bottom of the ship.
And
you imagine the hold of the ship as it filled in like silly putty when you're a kid.
Right.
You know, you put your fingerprint on, you can see it all comes back. Well, this is all packed into a wedge that was taken out of the log, and it became and took on the characteristics of the log, and that's why it looks like a piece of wood. But it's not. If you cut it open, there's nothing in here but solid material, and it's all animal waste.
Well, animal waste, you might call it, originally it was sort of a muck.
Yes.
That precipitated down to the bottom of the hold, and then it hardened up after it dried out, and then it became petrified. So what is in that muck?
Well, first of all, we have the cat hairs of 4 different types of large cats.
Really?
And many people don't understand, but you know, the tigers are in India, Southeast China. Lions are in Africa. They don't go together.
Right.
So to find cat hairs in the same ones. We found bird feathers that only exist in Africa. We found pieces of butterfly wings that butterflies only live in South America. And we found pieces of plant material that only grow in southern Pacific islands.
Wow.
And this is in northern Iran. All in the same piece. So they are not only in the same ship, you know that there's an enormous amount of DNA there.
Yes. Now, let's face it, you find a petrified something that's made of timbers that are coated with pitch. You find it at 13,000 feet, and then you find a piece of petrified muck that is the combined waste of many different animals from many different climatic zones, and pretty soon you begin to draw conclusions.
Well, here's an interesting thing. From Mount Suleiman, you can go 50 miles in any direction and find a climate that any animal, because there's a desert one direction, there's rain tropical forest, which we were in another direction, there's the plains area another section. So every type of animal in the world can live within 50 miles of Mount Suleiman.
Now, is it too soon to make the assumption that this is a petrified piece of Noah's Ark, or dare we say that?
I don't know. We have petrified pieces of an ancient ship.
Of an ancient ship at 13,000 feet in Iran, and it has animal waste from many different types of animals that come from many different climatic zones, plus vegetation that's not today native to Iran, I take it.
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting thing. A year after we had the first samples done, because we had to send the 5 samples to all the different labs to go through it. A year later, we got on the phone. All the climbers were on the phone, as well as all 5 labs. And it's supposed to be a 10, 15-minute phone call. An hour and 15 minutes later, we're into it, as they're describing everything that they found, and they keep getting more excited as they're talking. And these are all the guys who say, we're not Christians, we're scientists, you know. Finally, after an hour and 15 minutes, I said, okay, guys, well, what is it that we did find? And it went silent on the other end. And then one of the guys, I don't know who, said, oh, Mr. Bonema, we've been talking about this for months, and we don't see how it can be anything but Noah's Ark. But don't use our names.
Now, this is a commercial lab. I take it a very reputable lab.
Yeah. So,
people who know what they're doing.
Yes.
And they weren't Christians.
But here's some more interesting thing. We had a call from Cambridge University, their DNA lab. And the call went, Mr. Bonema, this is Dr. So-and-so from Cambridge University DNA lab. I'm not a Christian. I don't believe the Bible. I don't believe the story of Noah's flood. However, we just finished the DNA research of grapes. And the oldest grapevines in the world come from that same area you found that ship.
Wow.
Now what's interesting, in Genesis 9, as Noah comes off the ark, he builds an altar, we found the altar, makes a sacrifice, and the rainbow comes out. Verse 20, he plants a vineyard. Now all of a sudden Cambridge University is saying, hey, that's where the oldest grapevines are in the world. Same place that the Bible says Noah planted a vineyard.
The mother of all vineyards.
Yes.
Amazing.